Chapter 21, Section 3, Generations Clash Over the New Youth Culture. Before World War I, if a young man were interested in courting a young woman, he would visit her at home and meet her parents. If things went well, at this first meeting, the boy would visit again. If he invited the girl to a dance or a concert, an older adult would go with them as a chaperone. Eventually, the girl's parents might trust the young couple enough to let them sit by themselves on the front porch. In traditional families, these courtship patterns continued after the war. In more modern families, however, courtship changed dramatically, often confusing, if not upsetting, the older generations. Courtship was one example of how older and younger generations clash in the 1920s. The youth perspective. The old ways are repressive. During the 1920s, a growing drive for public education sent a majority of teenagers to high school for the first time in U.S. history. College enrollment also grew rapidly. As young people spent more time than ever before outside the home or workplace, a new youth culture emerged. This culture revolved around schools, clubs, sports, music, dances, dating, movies, and crazy fads. The fads young people followed were, for the most part, ephemeral. In one fad, a young couple entered marathon dance competitions. The last couple left standing after many hours of dancing won a prize. Flagpole sitting, in which participants would spend days perched atop a flagpole, was another short-lived fad. One fad from the 1920s that remains popular today is the crossword puzzle. The most daring young women broke with the past by turning themselves into flappers. They colored their hair and cut it short. Their skimpy dresses, worn without restrictive corsets, barely covered their knees. They rolled their stockings below their knees and wore fastened rain boots that flapped around their ankles. Flappers wore makeup, which until that time had been associated with loose women of doubtful morals. Draped with beads and bracelets and carrying cigarette holders, they went to jazz clubs and danced the night away. In a magazine article on the flapper Zelda Fitzgerald wrote, "She flirted because it was fun to flirt and wore a one-piece bathing suit because she had a good figure. She covered her face with paint and powder because she didn't need it, and she refused to be bored because she wasn't boring. Mothers disapproved of their sons taking the flapper to dances, to teas, to swim, and most of all, to heart." Zelda Fitzgerald, Eulogy on the Flapper, 1922. Modern couples traded old-fashioned courtship for dating. Whereas the purpose of courtship had been marriage, the main point of dating was to have fun away from the watchful eyes of parents. Sedate tea parties or chaperone dances gave way to unsupervised parties. Older people fretted about the younger generation's wild ways. Many young people, however, felt free to ignore their elders. After witnessing the war's waste of life, they decided that the adults who had sent young men into battle did not deserve respect. As one young person said, "The older generation had certainly pretty well ruined this world before passing it on to us." Easy access to cars and the mass media helped fuel the youth rebellion. Cars gave young people a means to escape the supervision of their elders. Magazines and movies, in the meantime, spread images of a good life that was often very different from the way their parents had grown up. Writers Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote about the youth of the time in books with such titles as The Beautiful and the Damned. Perhaps no one better captured the feelings of rebellious youth than poet Edna C. Vincent Millay when she wrote, "My candle burns at both ends. It will not last the night, but ah, my foes and oh, my friends, it gives a lovely light." Edna St. Vincent Millay, A Few Figs from Thistles, 1920. The adult perspective. Young people have lost their way. Many adults considered the behavior of young people reckless and immoral. They tried to restore the old morality in a number of ways. One was censorship. Traditionalists pulled books they saw as immoral off library shelves. They also pressured filmmakers for less sexually suggestive scenes in movies. The Hays Office, named for former Postmaster General Will Hays, issued a movie code that banned long kisses and positive portrayals of casual sex. In bedroom scenes, movie couples had to follow a 2 feet on the floor rule. Some states tried to legislate more conservative behavior. They passed laws to discourage women from wearing short skirts and skimpy swimsuits. Police with yardsticks patrolled beaches looking for offenders. Mostly, however, the older generation restricted itself to expressing loud disapproval. When nagging did not work, many parents crossed their fingers and hoped for the best. More often than not, they were not disappointed. Most young people, even the most rebellious flappers, usually ended their dating days by getting married and raising the next generation of rebellious youth.